So we are back. April Fools, I think maybe. Anyway, we are back with Stacey Little. Last conversation was amazing. If you missed out, please go back and look at it. Please. If you didn't get to be here or listen to our series with Tiffany Loftus, she talked about being a former narcissist and how she came out of it and the things that she learned and how she was able to overcome with the Lord and really hone in, deal with her issues and things of that nature. You want to go back and listen to that. But this previous message that we had with Stacey Little, we went into it. I mean, we talked about similarities. As I told you before, narcissistic abuse, you can count on it. It is a pattern. It is the same. The tactics are the same. The abuse is the same. The cycle is the same. So I told you last time that narcissism has 9 traits. If you didn't catch them, go back and listen to the video. And then we said that there were 5 types of narcissists. I don't know what the benign narcissist is. If you know, please put it down in the comment section. And please, I apologize to you for not knowing what that is. But the next time that I do this, I will know. Okay. So the grandiose, the malignant, the benign, the communal or the giver or noble, and the covert, vulnerable narcissist. So there's 5 of them. There's 9 traits. If a person has about 5 or more, they are considered in that category according to the DSM. That's an American Psychological Diagnosis. Okay. I'm not making it up. It's true. Look it up on the internet. It'll tell you all of that. But we went into it. We talked about Stacey's journey and how the relationship went. And then we uncovered the cycle. And the part of the cycle is a 3-part cycle. The first part is love bombing. Generally, that's in romantic relationships. But for any platonic relationships, you have idolization. It's kind of, idealization. It's where they kind of put you up on a pedestal and they mirror your behavior. Part 2, they start to devalue you. They say things at you, kind of criticisms, and you're like, wow, this person knows me, they see me, I don't understand what's going on, why are they saying these things about me? And you get a little confused. And then part 3, they discard you, kind of, they get a little tired of you, and then there's a new toy, kind of like a Woody and an Andy situation. If you don't know what I mean, go back and look at Toy Story. But you have that type of situation. They discard you and you're doing everything that you can to get back in their good graces. And then the cycle continues until you end the relationship. Into it. Hey, Stacey, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being so open and vulnerable last time. Just give the people just a little bit of an introduction of you. Tell them where they can find you, Facebook, Instagram, if they have questions for you. Just tell us a little bit about you.
Hi, I'm Stacey. I am a Rhema grad, and I graduated in 2018. Went home for about 1.5 years, and I boomeranged back into Rhema, and I'm loving it here. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram. Those are the only 2 social media platforms I have right now. But Little Chef, that's my Instagram handle because I love Disney and I love cooking. And on Facebook, Stacey Little. And yeah, so you have any questions, shoot them to me and I will answer them to the best of my ability. But I'm very vulnerable, so if I don't know, I will tell you I don't know. But I can, point you towards resources and people that might.
You know, the cool thing, Stacey, is I found out, like, once you kind of go through this situation, you really value the truth in relationships. So like you're pretty upfront and you share your expectations. Like you're like, I'm cutting through the chase. We're not doing all this stuff. Like I just want to know where you stand. If you don't like me, great. Let's just go ahead and end it and just move forward, right? So what would you say is the biggest takeaway from this relationship? And then we'll go a few steps back and kind of jump in where we left off last time.
There's 2. The biggest one is I am a lot more honest. A lot of people said that one of my traits was I was honest. But I mean, I'm more honest with myself now. Like, girl, like when you're in a relationship like this, like that we got out of, you become a salesperson. You can sell yourself, like you can sell yourself like this horrible thing and be like, oh, this is good, this is good, this is good. And now I'm like, no, girl, you shouldn't get into that relationship. Don't even. That's not good. And so I'm able to be more honest with myself and stop myself before I even get too far in. And I think the other takeaway is I'm started seeing a counselor. And I did. And I'm so open about it. I'm so for it and everything. And I've been getting so much freedom and healing, and my relationship with God has gone, I've been more intimate with God because I've got this healing, and I'm able to talk to this person who's unbiased. I would say with the situation that those are the two biggest takeaways for me as of right now.
So one of the things I got into counseling too. After this relationship, it was so detrimental to me. I felt like I was stuck. I just kept going around and around in a circle. I couldn't figure out why. And I think you have a similar story, Stacey. The relationship was just kind of cut off, and
Yeah.
you didn't know why
Yeah.
it happened. And you're trying to search. And so what did I do? Like, this person knew me. This was like a fairy tale at the beginning, at the beginning, at the beginning. And then like it turned into a little bit of a nightmare, like the rest of it. But it was a fairy tale at the beginning. And if we could just get back to that place, if I could just get back to where I was, like, it would be better again, and we could be friends again, and we could be, we could do whatever we plan to do again. And it seemed like it was like a record. If you don't know what a record is, go look it up. But anyway, it's like, or a CD that had been scratched. If you don't know what that is, look that up too. Or, I don't know, what do they call it? Buffering on the internet. Like, it just kept getting stuck, and it kept saying, waiting. And then I was talking to a friend of mine. We were on just kind of getting to know each other a little bit better, just hanging out on the phone, because this is during COVID. So I built a lot of friendships like over the last year. Like I've made so many friends, so many new people in my life. It's just crazy. And then relationships matter and all this other stuff. Like, you see. But anyway, I'm on the phone, we're talking, and she was like, girl, I'm in therapy, and I got a counselor, and it's okay. And I was like, that's all I needed. So I hopped on the phone. I was like, I got to find one now. And I did. I jumped into. So your story is similar to mine. The freedom that I got from being in counseling, the cycle that was broken, that record, I just broke it and threw it out.
Mm-hmm.
I threw it out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it was, we put on a different song.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And the freedom that you get from it.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of want to go into some technical terms. I'm not a technical person. So, I mean, like, some of the stuff you can find on the internet, I may not be even saying it right. But I have studied this a lot. So what people don't understand is kind of with this cycle, because you have this 3-part cycle, and your brain chemicals are doing all kinds of different things. So it's not so much as, if you ever heard of a soul tie, this goes a little bit deeper than a soul tie. Like, have you ever heard somebody say that trauma really affects your brain? We did an episode with Becca Messick a long time ago. Becca Messick, one of my first episodes. And we talked about post-traumatic stress disorder. We talked about anxiety, and she showed me brain images. And in those brain images, when people have experienced trauma, the brain changes colors. The chemical makeup of the brain changes. Dr. Caroline Leaf talks a lot about that as well. So this relationship puts you in a state of trauma. because of all of the differences that go on. That first of all, you feel embraced, and then you feel like you can lose a relationship, and then you're not enough, so then you're trying to work on yourself, and then they show you attention, and then you feel like you're kind of back to where you used to be, and then they do this again, and they devalue you, so you're not enough, so then you're working on yourself, and this is a constant cycle. And all the while your brain is going through all of these changes in chemicals, right? So there's three chemicals at work. Cortisol, which is the stress hormone, which is most of the relationship is stressful.
Mm-hmm.
Oxytocin, which is the love hormone, um, and it makes you feel like that there's love there. It doesn't necessarily have to be romantic love, but there's love there. And then dopamine, and dopamine is the feel good hormone, and that's released when you're at the beginning of the relationship. So there's dopamine, and then there's this oxytocin, right? And then once you get to the devaluing stage, you're in a constant state of stress throughout the entirety of the relationship. So you develop, people that don't like to walk in fear develop a severe level of anxiety.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're uncertain. You're uncertain. You're chasing after this person because you're trying to get back in their good graces so that you can get that experience again, this dream come true experience again, this person that just knew you, whatever they were doing to mirror.
It's true. I mean, I actually stopped sleeping. I couldn't sleep. It got to the point, I mean, thank goodness it was during, well, I wouldn't say thank goodness for COVID, but during the period where I was going through the not sleeping, my hours had shifted so I could sleep more. And I wasn't getting into sleep until like sometimes 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. And I didn't realize that I was having anxiety attacks. Like, because they were saying that it was like oppression and, things of that nature. But what I was experiencing were anxiety attacks, and it was keeping me up. But I thought the relationship was still going good, but my body was experiencing like, this isn't okay, this is okay. And I wasn't sleeping. And that's where it was getting me. But I still was well into it and wanted to go, no, this is something spiritual. This is something spiritual. It's not physical. It's affecting my eating, my sleeping, like physical stuff. So
And when you're out of the good graces, there's something called rumination. It's a cycle of thought, and you can't cut it off. You just can't. You can't cut it off. And I'm not saying that we don't have spiritual authority, we don't have power, we shouldn't cast down imaginations. But this is like an intensified version of thinking about the wrong thing. It consumes you. And I'm gonna say this: there's tons of doctors, there's tons of people on YouTube that you can listen to. You can look this up. If you think I'm making it up, please go Google it. Like, I'm serious. And I'm not making excuses for myself. I'm just saying this is a real deal. Because this person takes up so much. Did you hear Stacey say in the first episode? She said they were on a work level. They were on a friend level. She had stepped into a mom away from home level. They were in ministry together. Their family had embraced her. All of her day was spent with this person. And then once you remove that piece, because I did the same thing, all of my time was spent with, a lot of my time, I can't say all of my time because I have a family and kids and stuff like that, but a lot of my free time was spent with this person. So a lot of my day was consumed. So now this relationship is not in my life. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to spend my time, because all of my time was spent trying to get back in the good graces, trying to, do whatever I could to make this work. Now, you may think, oh, yeah, y'all just stressed out. This is y'all crazy. No, this happens. This happens at work. If you ever had a boss that made you up all hours of the night, you're working for him, they're calling you inappropriate hours of the night, asking you to do stuff, hey. And then you get a new job and you're like, oh my gosh, this job is horrible because I'm not doing as much. Yeah, that's what that is. You've been in a ministry and you're volunteering 20 days a week. There's only 7, right? And you're there breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and the pastor or some ministry staff is calling you all ungodly hours of the night,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you finally leave and you're like, oh my gosh, this other ministry couldn't be from God because I really don't have much to do, and and I'm just, and you're freaking out because you don't have a lot to do. So no, yeah, we're being candid about what this looks like.
Yeah.
These are conversations that people don't want to have. Like, you don't want to talk about because it makes you seem crazy, but that's the whole point of the relationship, to make you seem crazy. Right? Like, you're feeding this person's ego, sense of entitlement, sense of superiority. You are a supply. Okay, you ever looked at like the mosquito in your arm? Mosquito bites you to get a blood supply and leaves you itching. Think about it in that same way. This person gets into your life to pull from. You heard Stacey say, what did she say? She gave her everything she had. She poured everything she had into her. The encouragement, the love, the time. She poured that all into her. And then when the lady was okay, she started, oh, maybe you need to change your diet. Or maybe you need to eat like us. Or maybe you need to do this. Or maybe you're not spiritual enough. Or maybe you're not this. And you're not that. And all these other things. So I want to talk about it because I believe there's more people suffering from this. Before we get off this episode, I want to do this with you, Stacey, and you can just tell me. There's a list, 11 signs that you're in a relationship with a narcissist, and you can tell me if this is true, and you can expound a little bit if you like. Okay, so number 1, they are charming at first. It's like a fairy tale. They text you constantly. You talk to them constantly.
Yep. Yes, ma'am. Yep, that's one.
Number 2, they hog the conversation, talking about how great they are.
Yeah, I heard the same testimonies over and over and over. She wanted to write a book of testimonies, and I heard them over and over and over again.
What happened when you talked about yourself?
Somehow the conversation ended up back on her or her kids.
They feed off your compliments. They seem super self-confident, but they need a lot of praise. So were you always encouraging her and telling her how great she was?
Well, I mean, when she was the pastor, and I was like a prayer warrior, and so it was constant. The tension was like on her and me praying and getting words and things from God for her. So yeah.
Oh wow! Did you feel like you were her soul supply for confidence?
Sometimes it floored me because at the end she seemed like she was all together and just this spiritual giant. And when she would have these lows and she needed that, I would be like, oh, okay, what? I mean, it made me feel good because I felt useful. At the same time, I was a little confused. I was like, you kind of sound like me right now. I'm like, you're the pastor and I'm giving you what?
Yeah. Okay. Number 4, they lack empathy. They lack the ability to feel how other people are feeling. They lack the skill to make you feel seen, to validate you, to understand you, to accept you. They don't grasp it.
Yes, her daughter was going through major surgery, and it was, well, this isn't as bad as what she's going through. She's literally getting her ribs broken right now, or this isn't as bad as like I was molested as a kid. So, or like it would all like kind of angle back to, well, okay, my problems aren't as bad because you were taken advantage of, or this did happen to you, or this is actually happening to your daughter. So I'm just going to sit here and not feel sorry for myself.
Did you ever feel like you couldn't share things about you?
It got to the point where I was like, ooh, I know I'm supposed to, but it got kind of scary because when I wouldn't share with her, she somehow knew that I was leaving out details. Yes. I feel like you have something else to share, or why aren't you telling me this stuff? And it would get, or she would be like, daughter, can you pray in tongues? Like, I think there's more here. And I'm like, I might as well share. Or the Lord is going to tell my business,
And
kind
he
of
wasn't
thing.
going to do that.
And he wasn't going to do that, but that's how it felt. He wouldn't do that, but that's kind of how it was. It was scary. It got scary.
Yeah, because like I would get that too. Like I feel like you're off. You seem a little drawn or whatever. They're very aware
Yes.
when your supply is
When
withdrawn.
you're
When
pulling,
you
yeah.
pull back, they can feel it
Mm-hmm.
and they're on it.
Yes.
They need that. Okay, they don't have any or many long-term friends.
Nope. Mm-mm. It
Did
was
you feel
always the
like they
person's fault.
trashed they trashed that person trash talk previous friends?
Yes, it was. I can only imagine what he's saying about me. But yeah,
Me too. Ah,
I mean,
I mean,
I it is what it is. I mean, I'm cool. I'm healing. But yeah, no, like the other people, it was always their fault, and a lot of it was ministry. So a lot of it was like their fault.
they pick on you constantly. You feel like they're teasing you. Then they're mean and they become constant. Settling everything you do, from what you wear, eat, who you hang out with, what you watch on TV is a problem.
Wow, were you there? Like,
I told you it's a pattern. Like I experienced the same thing. And many others have too. Like it's a problem. They'll put you down, call you names, hit you with hurtful one-liners, and make jokes that aren't quite funny. Their goal is to lower your self-esteem and increase their own because it makes them feel powerful.
mhm.
Yeah.
How outgoing and sassy I can be, and a lot of people at Rainbow are like, "Ooh, I love you. I love how honest you are." Well, it was not a good thing with them. Like they didn't like. They said that I was being too black, like I was being too sassy. We won't go there. It's the, but yeah, like it was like I was being too expressive. Or she said one of her daughters were starting to act like me and pick up that they call it sassiness, and they like, "Can you be less sassy?" I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, it's my personality. And her thing was, well, demons can work through personalities. So when you say
I can't even keep going with this because I might say something. So I'm gonna keep going. I'm going to the next one. You can talk about that on your own because this is really making me mad. But anyway, um, moving on. I love you, Stacey. I'm sorry for cutting you off, and this is not me being narcissistic, but I can. That is. Yeah.
yep,
Okay. That's for another. That's a conversation for another day. They gaslight you. Gaslighting is a form of manipulation. I've talked about this pretty consistently. I talked about this probably a couple of days ago. It's in identifying toxic behaviors. I think it's episode 5 or 6 or something like that. We talk about gaslighting. So if you need more examples, you can go back and watch that video. But gaslighting is a form of manipulation. It's emotional abuse. It's a hallmark of narcissism. Now, Timothy Loftus says you can be a narcissist without gaslighting. But this particular thing says it's the hallmark of narcissism. Narcissistic people spew blatant lies, falsely accuse other people, spin the truth, and ultimately distort your reality. Signs of gaslighting means are the following. You no longer feel like the person you used to be. Didn't you just say that? You feel more anxious and less confident than you used to be. You wonder if you're being too sensitive. Mm-hmm. You feel like everything you do is wrong. You always think that it's your fault when things go wrong. You're always apologizing. You have a sense that something's wrong, but aren't able to identify what it is. You often question whether your response to the person is appropriate, and you make excuses for the person's behavior.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm going to interject right here. I believe gaslighting is from the devil. I think all of this stuff is from the devil, but particularly this because it makes a person question their reality.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And the nature of the devil is to be subtle in a mistruth or an untruth. Mm-hmm. And to me personally, I feel like if you're a gaslighter, you are being inspired by someone else. And that's not God. God is not inspiring you. If you are making people question whether or not they are crazy, you are being inspired to do something horrible. to someone else.
Mm-hmm.
And that is not the truth. Jesus is the truth. God is the truth.
Yes.
The Spirit of God is truth.
Yeah.
And if you're using gaslighting, I know this is something that I've had to make sure that it's not a part of my life. That I don't do this to other people to alter their reality. People need to know the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And then we don't need to gaslight people into staying in relationships either. I'm going to say that too.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You got a you got a friend that's questioning whether or not they should be in a relationship. Don't gaslight them because you don't even know the dynamics of the relationship. You may say, oh, that's a great person, but you don't know what it's like being close to them. So don't gaslight people. If they're saying that this is not what they, bargain for, support them and help them get out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm moving on. They dance around defining the relationship. That's kind of more of a romantic space. So we're going to move on from that because we're not talking about romantic relationships. They think they're right about everything and they never apologize. Now, I think I got an apology. Maybe I can count on my hand. But I was always apologizing. Fighting with a narcissist feels impossible. There is no debating or compromising with the narcissist because they're always right. They won't necessarily see a disagreement as a disagreement. They'll just see it as them teaching you some truth.
Yep.
They don't hear you. They don't understand you. They don't take responsibility for their actions, and they never compromise. Never.
No.
I remember one person was like, I really didn't do that to you. I was like, yes, you did. I got the bruises to back it up.
Or you're being really dramatic about that. Like, I'm not sure. And then they ask somebody else, did that really happen like that? No, I don't. Yeah, I think you're probably being a little too sensitive or being really dramatic about it.
Mm-hmm.
Really? Okay, I guess I am.
Yeah.
And then there you go.
Yeah. You're being gaslighting. That other person that they're asking is gaslighting you too. So you're being double teamed by their flying monkeys. That's the thing too. We'll talk about that later. Not tonight, but we'll talk about Stacey. You got to come back. Okay. All right. They panic when you try to break up with them or you try to get out of a relationship with them. They will try much harder to keep you in their lives. They love bomb you at first. They say the right things. But soon enough, you realize that they're not going to change. It's always on again, off again in this relationship. So like they freak out and you hear things like, you're just going to leave me. Like you're going to leave me just like everybody else. Did you ever hear those things?
No, it was more, no, it wasn't that. It was more of it would be sad if you did leave, but if it was me leaving, it would have been on my terms. It's nothing that she would have done. It's like, if you leave, this would be sad. And I don't know why you would leave, but.
Yeah, I got, you can't leave. Don't leave me. Everybody's left me. You're the only person that really understands me. I put my whole heart and soul in this, and if you leave me, you're abandoning me, you're kicking me to the side, you're divorcing me,
You know what, from the first one, that covert one, I did get that. And yeah, like everybody's left me, and if you leave, I don't know what I would do. Yeah, so.
That's a lot of responsibility to put on a person, right?
It is, because you feel like that if they were to commit suicide, it would be your fault because what if you would have just been there one last time?
Yeah. And number 11, when you show them you're really done, they lash out. If you insist that you're done with the relationship, they will make a goal to hurt you for abandoning them. Their ego is severely bruised. That causes them to feel rage, hatred for anybody that wronged them. And that's because everything is everyone else's fault, including you leaving the relationship. They badmouth you to save face, or they might start being friends with somebody else that or they'll try to take your friends away. And then another thing is they'll give you the silent treatment or stonewall you. The reason is because a good reputation means everything to them, and they don't want to let anyone interfere with that.
Yeah. She even convinced my parents that I was a problem and that I might have been crazy, that it was my fault.
They're very charming.
Yep.
They're very charming. They're very charming. Very, very charming. So one of the things that I found is a good way to really kind of help yourself. Like you said, go to therapy. Like if you're in one of these relationships, no matter what the relationship is, romantic, work, church leader, community leader, because I mean it's out there. I heard a statistic the other day. There's like 30% of the country, the United States of America, is narcissistic. So 1 in 3 people are
Wow.
narcissistic, right? So, right. If you think you're narcissistic, go see a therapist. Like, and the reason why, I mean, a lot of times these relationships they just go undetected because a lot of people don't know or don't understand the dynamics of what's happening,
Yeah.
and don't understand that love bombing, that those 3 brain chemicals, the dopamine, the cortisol, and the oxytocin, they make a concoction called trauma bonding. And basically trauma bonding is you're traumatically bonded to this person because you keep experiencing the same cycle over and over and over again. And so I heard somebody equate it to like going to a slot machine
Mm.
and playing all day, hoping that you win and you lose all your money, hoping that you're gonna win big and you only get like a few pennies back. Like it is a crapshoot because you never know what
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna get. You don't know who's gonna
Mm-hmm.
show up. You don't know, so you're always kind of on edge, trying
Mm-hmm.
to figure out, okay, well, who do I need to be today so that they don't trip out, or who do I need to be today so that they're happy and we can do things, or who do I need to
Mm-hmm.
be today so that we can get things accomplished, like what do I need to be to them today? And when you do that, you're bending over backwards. Like you're hopefully wishing that you're gonna hit big. This person is gonna change, and you're
Mm-hmm.
gonna win $1 million from this slot machine, and you normally just kind of come up a loser
Yeah.
if they refuse to change. Like if they can
Mm-hmm.
acknowledge the fact that this is harmful and they're leaving people in their wake hurt because what did you say earlier? She never said it was her fault.
Mm-hmm. Never
Mine
admitted
either.
it.
Mine either.
Mm-hmm.
I had someone in my life a long time ago, and I was like, "Hey, you did this, and this to me," and they were like, "Oh, you're lying. Like, I never did this. Like, this was your fault." And I was like, "I was a kid. Like, how in the world? Like, how could you say that this was my fault? Like, you're an adult. How do you even what?" Right,
Yeah.
Stacy.
Yes.
For the sake of not being on here forever, I want you to share your heart. Just talk to the guest. If you have any questions for me, I'm willing to answer. I feel like I've covered a lot, and you've listened to me and you've indulged me. But share your heart, Stacy.
Share my heart. Oh wow. Well, when I got back from Florida, I felt like I wasn't human. I didn't know what I was doing. I was very disoriented. Felt like I'd been living in a fog the whole time anyway. Um, but I'll say I'd never been so close to suicide than I was at that particular moment because I didn't have a plan, but I didn't know what to do. I mean, because that was my plan. That was my end game. That was everything. But I did something that normally I wouldn't do. I was very vocal and said, "I'm not okay, and I need help." And one of my friends actually told a mutual friend and said, "Hey, Stacy needs help. She needs counsel. She's looking for a counselor." And so they hooked me up with a really good counselor, um, Cornerstone Christian Counseling. I believe they're spirit filled. My counselor is definitely spirit filled. If you're looking for Christian counseling, I highly recommend it. And they take insurance and not insurance too. Um, but that saved my life because at that point, my it distorted my reality not only with my friends and family, but with God because I thought I heard from God a lot during this time period, and so by this being so beautiful and then being so tragic, I started second guessing my voice and the voice of God too. And then I would say the second part of that is reconciliation with family. I block people on Facebook. I cut people off left and right, stopped talking to people that I had actually had really good relationships with. If if they weren't deemed appropriate by that group of people, you were out. And I cut you off. Had some trips planned in 2020. At the last minute, decided not to take them, and it did hurt a lot of people. And so coming back from that, those group of people, they weren't there to deal with the fallout that I was. And so now, not only do I have this trauma and dealing with my mental health and this depression, this crippling, like it was almost like I was, this probably sounds really dramatic, but I was gasping for air. Like it was like every single day, it was like, I don't know if I can do this, I had just moved back to Tulsa. I was still trying to get my life back, and very scramble. And God is so good because he rescued me. He physically sent um, two people with like existing elements, an older couple. They said, "Oh, we're going to come get you." They came down to Florida, drove a day from Missouri down to Florida. They came and snatched me out of that situation. So God physically rescued me. But then I had a job. I didn't have a car. I got a job within weeks. I mean, it all started, coming in. God was just so merciful in a position, in a time in my life where he shouldn't have been, because I wasn't merciful. I'm thinking he's going to treat me like I was treating everybody else, but he wasn't. And that's just how good our God is. Fast forwarding a little bit, I'm doing a lot better now, guys. When you have a situation like that and you get out of it, I didn't want to get out of it. I was forced out of it. I'm just being so honest. I didn't want
Me
out.
too. Me too. I had the same experience.
I didn't want out of it. I would have stayed there forever if they would have allowed me to. But when almost the light was turned on and I saw all of those things, all I wanted to do was to get out. And when I got out of it, it was like, now what do I do? Because that was, like you said, it was all my time. Like it was my whole life and things like that. This isn't a victim story. This is victory. Sometimes is a process. It's not overnight. And so I would say, if you're somebody that's wanting to get out, or someone who is just freshly got out, healing is a process. And my motto right now is it's messy, but it's worth it. Healing is so worth it. And a lot of the times for me, that as I'm going through this process, what I'm figuring out is this didn't just happen. There was a lot of childhood trauma that happened that allowed this door to be open. And so by addressing what happened in my childhood and actually healing from my childhood, it's breaking that cycle. So this will never happen again. It'll never happen again, because I've decided that I'm not going to allow it to happen again. So the more that you are able to address and heal, and not do it quickly, because I'm one of those people that I will put a Band-Aid on a gushing wound, because I just want to do it as quick as possible so I can go out and be useful and people please. But it got to the point where I'm like, I don't have an arm. I can't do nothing. like,
Legs are gone, man.
like there's nothing left of me. I got back from Tulsa, and I got back to Tulsa, and my friend had a baby shower, and I was one of the people that was helping out with the baby shower, and I'm sitting there gasping for air, because I've been in 3 states in a month. Like, Florida, Missouri, Tulsa, like boom, 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 boom. And I'm sitting here trying to get a baby shower together. And I'm sitting here like, I can't do this. But I did it, knee jerk reaction. But guys, take the time to heal. Like, if these people, your friends, are your friends, you're going to be able to identify who's with you and who's using you very quickly. And it's okay to set those boundaries, because that's one thing. But there's this book called Boundaries that another friend introduced to me. And that book is really helping me through this process, because that book is helping me to identify, like, Boundaries are a good thing. Having because what I think what happens with narcissistic relationships is when you don't have boundaries, they actually exploit that. But when you start building those boundaries, people who don't like that, like you having boundaries, they're going to lash out, but they're also either going to leave your life or they're going to adjust to your boundaries. And that's something that I've realized is there are people out there who they adjust to the boundaries that I'm setting or that they leave, and I have to allow them to leave. My question for you, because you said that there was a lady in the group that were a part of the narcissistic thriving like community.
Let me put a little blurb out there. So just recently, it's really been on my heart. Super passionate about it. I've talked to several people that have been involved in narcissistic relationships. That's why I say it's a little bit more common than you thought it was, and you might be in one. But we started a group called Narc Thriver. There's a lot of groups out there called Narc Survivor because you really do just survive these relationships. They are extremely abusive, verbally, emotionally, mentally. And a lot of people just don't really count those as being abused. They say, oh, you're overreacting. No, these are traumatic situations. And if you look at, as I mentioned to you earlier, Caroline Leaf, she does a study. These types of things affect the brain and they are damaging to the brain. You mentioned mental clarity, being in a fog, memory, all of that. It affects all of that. So those type of abuses are abuses. So we started a community. It's called the Narc Thriver Support Community. Okay. And it's only for people that have been in narcissistic relationships, understand narcissistic relationships, and can be a support to people that are sharing their hearts in these relationships, may not necessarily have answers, know where to go, but we're able to share and really pour our hearts out in a private group. So you can't come by and visit the group. If you want to be a part of it, there's some questions that you'll have to answer, and then we'll let you in based on your responses. Okay, go for it.
What caught my attention and got just really tugged on my heart was this lady said that her husband was a narcissist, and I know that I had an out. What do you do when you don't have an out because that's your spouse and they're not in the they don't want to necessarily get healing? Like, what do you do? How do you cope with that?
So with narcissistic relationships, most people that you find will tell you the first thing you need to do is hightail it out of there. But based on religious background, your morals, your principles, whatever, you may not necessarily be able to leave. Your financial situation, whatever it may be, you may not be able to leave. You got children, you may not be able to go. So one of the things is you need to, number one, hold on to your reality. Because as you see, a lot of this is about second guessing. There's projection that comes in. Arguments are taken and thrown for a loop. There's a lot of unnecessary things that are talked about, and the feeling of, just not being enough or not having that person's attention or not really being cared about. So hold on to your reality because that's going to be distorted, right? Because you think this person loves you completely, but they're treating you differently. So in your mind, you can't really, mix the two. How did they treat me this way, but they love me because I remember when they loved me and they showed me love this way. So you have to accept the harsh reality that there is a possibility that this person may be narcissistic and may not see me in the way that I see them. Because we're only responsible for us. Okay? I can't make the other person love me the way that I want them to love me. That's a choice.
Yeah.
And based on scripture, we follow scripture, we adhere to scripture. It still is a choice, even though some scriptures are promises and some are commands, meaning things that we have to adhere to. You have a choice not to follow it. So while the husband may be responsible to love the wife, he can just opt out, or vice versa. She can opt out of respecting. it's not just a one-way street, just the husband or whatever, or it could be a husband or a wife in this particular situation. So hold on to your reality. Number two, get a support group, people that understand what you're going through and that will be there to support you. Because in this relationship, you feel like you're walking alone. A lot of times people in this relationship feel like they're single in a marriage. So get a support group, right? Have people around you that love you. And then number three, start doing things that you enjoy again. Remember who you are. Get back to you, right? I'm not saying being selfish or whatever, but go delve into what you like to do, because a lot of times in these relationships, you're only doing what the narcissistic person wants to do. So remember what you like. Remember the music you like, the food you like, and then start kind of exploring that. If this person doesn't want to do this with me, let me get a group of friends that'll do it with me too. They'll be fine with that. Make sure that you're not isolated. Start reaching out to those people again. You know, apologize. Like, I'm sorry. I didn't realize this was what's going on, but you know, I'm here. I'm present. And then with the disagreements, just make sure that you're holding on to your reality. Make sure that, you know, you do as little to engage, or, you know, I mean, it's kind of hard to say to not set the narcissist off because you don't really know what sets them off. So, but just do as little to really squelch the situation. Do what you can to keep the peace, you know, and then enjoy the time that you can with the person.
Yeah.
Stacey, it's been wonderful. I've got to do this again. So as I mentioned to you earlier, we started a new group. You know, we've got Relationships Matter 2020. And we're really having some really hot and heavy conversations on that page. Whoo, this last week. Oh my goodness. It was off the charts. But like I said, I've been very passionate about this relationship because of the experience that I had. And then hearing other people talk about being in these relationships, not having the support, not realizing that this is what's taking place, and not having the support that they need. So we started the Narc Thriver support community. Narc Thriver support community. It's a private group. Not just anybody can visit. And like I said, there's qualifying questions for you to be admitted to the group. We have a handful of people right now, but we plan on really pumping in and pouring it into other people. Yeah. So if you'd like to be a part of the group, direct message me, put it in the comments. We'll send you a link so that you can sign up, and you know, maybe you can be a part of the group, maybe not. No narcissists allowed. Just teasing. No, seriously. But look, this has been great. I know we went into a lot of information. We talked about, like, it's pretty candidly, the situations that we've been in. I know Stacey primarily shared. I agreed because, like I said, same story, different circumstances, different people, different players. Just all you would have to do is just move the pieces and put my name and the other person's name in there, and then you would have the same exact story. The patterns are the same. Are we saying these people are bad people? Not necessarily. What we are saying is they necessarily, this is a trauma-induced protection mode that a person is in. And what it does is it emotionally stunts their growth. And they are responding from an emotionally immature place.
Yeah. And
if you think of a child, how they respond to really complicated situations, you can kind of pinpoint where this person is. Right? So we're not saying that they're bad people, but we are saying people are hurt by them because they haven't dealt with their trauma. I've heard it over and over and over again. It's not scriptural, but there's a lot of truth in it. Hurt people hurt people. And if you find yourself being one of those hurt people that have hurt people, get some help. Reach out to somebody. Say, hey, look, I've hurt some people. I really need to help. I need to delve into these issues. If you are a person that has been in a narcissistic relationship and are reeling and don't know what to do, has been getting out, trying to get out, you know, in the process of figuring out what you're going to do, and it seems like it's so overwhelming and you're so confused and you don't know what to do, reach out to us. We'll have some information. Reach out to a therapist. If you feel like you're on the verge of suicide because these relationships really put you in a state of hopelessness, because you could be believing and believing that things will turn around and this person will refuse, because that's the thing that keeps him in control, that keeps him in power. And it can create a sense of hopelessness, because you may feel like, I want to reconcile. I want to mend the relationship. I want it to go back to what it used to be. And because they refuse to maintain their control over you in the relationship, you can experience a sense of hopelessness and be at the end of your rope and want to commit suicide. Look, there's going to be a suicide hotline number in the comments below. Reach out to someone. Call a friend. Somebody that will hold your confidence and that will be there to support you. These things are real. These situations and relationships are real. You may not have experienced it, but as much as you can, try to be there for people that have.
Yes.
Until next time, we'll see you then. Bye.